Oklahoma City is on the verge of an NBA championship after Jalen Williams, a 40-point bomb in Game 5 against Indiana in Oklahoma City, gives the Thunder a 3-2 lead in this series. And it's been cinema so far, and last night was even more. And what stood out to me about this Thunder team in Game 5 was absolutely the defense. And it's not even close. It's been a historically great defensive team all year. That team was absolutely on display last night in Oklahoma City. Now, they were the first team in NBA history to record over 15 steals and over 12 blocks in an NBA Finals game. Overall, dominant. And I think if you ask the Pacers, they would say the same because they were suffocating. And once again, the stats tell no lies, right? So 15 steals for the Thunder to Indiana's 9, 12 blocks to Indiana's 4. Points off turnovers, the Thunder had 32 points off turnovers. By doing so, they worked their biggest lead up to an 18-point margin. And the reason why is simple. Jalen Williams, J-Dub, a career high 40 points last night. He was unstoppable. It didn't seem like there was any confidence in whatever Pacer defender went to stop Jalen Williams. It felt like there was no shot. He was scoring on every opportunity that presented itself. A lot of the times in Game 5, he was just in the right spot at the right time. And that opened up a lot of opportunities for J-Dub to put on the show that he did. He's such a mature player. When you give him the basketball, you feel like good things are going to happen. And that's the position SGA was in last night, as well as all the fans in the arena. When J-Dub had the basketball, you knew something was going to happen. And something that I thought that Mark Daigneault said, and it's very true, is that the floor for Jalen Williams is just so high. And what does that mean? His ceiling is super high, but he could be 3 for 25 from the field, and Daigneault would want to keep him on the floor. He does so many great things for this Thunder team that make them great. He seems to do everything for everything. And being the point forward in last night's game, the ball was in J-Dub's hands the majority of the contest. And in Game 4, J-Dub was ball handling because they were trying to free up Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Nembhard pressuring him 94 feet. They didn't want him tired out. They didn't want him to be as ball dominant just because that does tire a player out over the course of a 48-minute game. And that created the second spot for Jalen Williams. Well, no need to handle the ball as the second option when you can be the first. And that's what Jalen Williams was in Game 5. He did what he wanted, how he wanted, and when he wanted. And that is just what was so detrimental to the Pacers. It was like a constant force. It was like a drill. Just crank, 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 crank until the game was over and the Pacers ended up having no answer. And I thought SGA honestly did a pretty good job of kind of staying out of his way. He talked about postgame just kind of how dominant and how forceful J-Dub was in this game. Props to SGA. He's the MVP of the NBA. You think he wanted to get his? Well, he was able to not only sit back and kind of let J-Dub do his thing, but he also got his own as well. We'll talk about SGA in just a second. I think what makes this Thunder team, in my opinion, so hard to stop is the fact that no moment is foreign to them. And it seems like they're quite literally learning and recalling as the game goes on. They've seen a lot of different defensive sets, trying to stop this guy, trying to slow down that guy over an 82-game season, and they've dominated. That's why they're the number one team in the Western Conference. That's why they've dominated the NBA playoffs to the level that they have. But what I noticed, and J-Dub talked about it post-game, was Game 5 was very similar to Game 1 of this NBA Finals. It was an ugly game. Pacers in Game 1 turned the ball over 25 times. They trailed by 15 points going into the fourth quarter against a team who had the best home record in the NBA, a dominant home arena. But the Pacers, as we all know, Tyrese Haliburton was able to bring that team back in the last couple of minutes, hit a game-winning shot, and walk out of Oklahoma City in Game 1 with a victory. Same situation presented itself in Game 5. Thunder were leading by a lot. The Pacers cut that lead down, sort of going into the fourth quarter. But the difference was the Thunder did not panic. And you could tell there was a maturity level. There was a force that never discontinued. It was constant. It was all night. They never slowed down. In Game 1, they learned. And in Game 5, they felt that same feeling they felt in this first game of the series. And they said, we're not doing that again. And it was primarily Jalen Williams, but another help was absolutely Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. If you watched Game 4 and saw all the tweets about him, you know that he was getting slammed for having 0 assists. And I talked about how kind of that was reasonable based off the style of play and the minutes that were designed for him in their strategy for last game. 0 assists in game 4. Well, enough said for game 5. 31 points, 10 assists. Jalen Williams goes for 40. I think that's enough said about SGA. And I thought on defense, he was perfect as well. He did a lot of blocking shots. He was a lot living in the passing lanes. I thought from SGA, it was a super complete game, one of the more complete games we've seen from him from in the playoffs. The supporting cast was huge as well. The Thunder wouldn't have been able to win this game without them. I want to start with Chet Holmgren because I think he had the best game of his playoffs in game 5 as well. 9 points, 11 boards, 3 blocks. He bought his ticket and he sat down there. As the primary defender on Pacers scorers, he held the Pacers shooters to 3 of 12 from the field. That's a bizarre stat. 3 key players off the bench, too, that added to Holmgren, to Williams, and to Gilgeous-Alexander's game were so important. Aaron Wiggins being the first one. He was the biggest shot maker of the day outside of the MVP and Jalen Williams, the Thunder's 2 All-Stars. He made 4 threes on 7 attempts for 14 points, but it felt like when there was a moment where maybe J-Dub wasn't able to make the shot, you felt like it was Aaron Wiggins. And Cason Wallace was his treacherous twin in that moment as well. He had 3 threes, three or four from deep. But the difference with him is, and I talked about it in our last show about game 4, is I felt like what Indiana had done with Nembhard was so effective. And if the Thunder wanted to give their best shot to try and stop Tyrese Halliburton, they needed a Nembhard equivalent of their own. And what I was looking for in this game was that guy, the one who pressures for 94 feet, the one who Halliburton passes away the ball, the one that denies the ball back. What the Thunder did was so interesting. They made that 3 guys. And I thought it was a mix of Cason Wallace, Alex Caruso, and Lou Dort. Those were the guys that constantly put pressure on Tyrese. And it forced Tyrese to have a weird game. And Alex Caruso is averaging the most steals per game ever by a player in the finals off the bench. Unreal stats. But those guys, I thought, did what they needed to do in this game to step up and try to stop Tyrese Halliburton. Let's take a look now at the Pacers. Pacers cannot survive like this. Sometimes you need to look beyond the box score to see sort of how a game played out. You need to see all the moments where maybe the game went south for them. But if you looked at the box score from game 5, I think you'd know pretty quick why the Pacers weren't able to come out on top. No starters with a plus minus higher than -5. Pascal Siakam was the Pacers' leading scorer with 28, but he had just as many turnovers as he did rebounds with 6. Pacers facing their first deficit in this entire playoffs, which is such a testament to them. They've been Miracle City, playing the pace that they have. They haven't been down in a series yet. They lost a 3-point battle, which I believe, I mean, if you're the number 1 3-point making and shooting team in the NBA, that's your bread and butter. If you let a team beat you in that, you're more than likely going to lose the game. And if you lose the rebound battle and you lose what you're best at, it's likely going to be simple addition, a little PEMDAS action there. Plus, this is their first time losing back-to-back games since, yes, you heard this correctly, March 10th of this year. They lost 2 games back-to-back on March 6th and March 10th. First time in about 3-ish months. Pacers have lost back-to-back. And here's what I'll say. If you've seen the news, you know Tyrese Halliburton a little banged up with the right calf injury in this one. And he wasn't the same. He just wasn't. But in the third quarter, the Pacers found a little bit of an answer. And I think when you find an answer, you got to keep writing it. That's what I thought was missing. TJ McConnell was the spark plug for the Pacers in the third quarter, an unlikely host of that title, but he helped bring the deficit all the way back from what was 18 points all the way back down to 2. I don't think that was on anyone's bingo card heading into this game. He had a 13-point fourth quarter, finished with 18 points, 4 boards, 4 assists, and a couple of steals. But entering the fourth quarter, Hall of Fame coach Rick Carlisle, he decided to go with Halliburton instead. And I think it's undeniable to think that, right? I mean, Halliburton's been the big moment guy. He's been the shot maker in the clutchest of moments. He's brought your team back. He's the engine of your offense. And when your defense was playing like they were, Thunder offense was kind of unstoppable. Pacers defense couldn't do much about it. You needed to get your offense going. Halliburton didn't seem like the same guy last night. He wasn't as much of a constant force as he usually had been in the first 4 games of this series. If it was me, I would have gone with TJ McConnell. And why was simply because of energy. TJ McConnell's been that guy in his entire career, whether it was in Philadelphia or whether it was in Indiana. And he's been the guy, the match to start the fire. And he was that last night. I just think they should have gone with it a little more continuously. He's the first player since 2012, James Harden with the Oklahoma City Thunder, to have numbers like he did off the bench in a finals game. So if anything, over the next couple of days, the rest and recovery factor for Tyrese Halliburton will be so important. But I will say, if I'm Rick Carlisle, there's one thing I know, and it's that if Tyrese Halliburton is not 100%, you've got a guy in TJ McConnell that can make something shake, and you've got a guy that can make something happen. Neesmith wasn't as big of a factor outside of his crazy hip dunk that he had on Chet Holmgren. Defensively, the fouls took him out of the game. Nembhard was really struggling. Most of the times he touched the ball in the fourth quarter, it resulted in a turnover. Tough point guard play because these Oklahoma City guards are so tough. It opens it up for a guy like TJ McConnell to come in, especially if Tyrese Halliburton is not in the mix. And for the Pacers, it was an overall tough game, but it's hard to deny the success and just the pure dominance of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Teams that win Game 5 of an NBA Finals that was tied 2-2 have gone on to the win of the series 23 times in the previous 31 opportunities. And that's 74%. You want a better stat for you, Oklahoma City fans? Teams with a 3-2 lead in the finals have won 40 times in the previous 49, which is up to 82%. So the odds are falling in the Thunder's favor, and the Pacers, they'll have their backs against the wall in Game 6 in Gainbridge Fieldhouse on Thursday night.